Have you ever thought about coming to Hollywood? If you're particularly in college, even high school, or you're in your 20s or 30s and you're thinking about maybe my calling is to come to the entertainment industry or work in Hollywood or maybe work in New York, where do I start? Well, today on the podcast, I want to talk about internships, how you can get them and how you can make them work to advance your career. A lot of people call our office at Cooke Media Group and they want to inquire about internships. Can I come out and be an intern for you? And we've had interns, multiple. Absolutely. Actually, we've had many interns over the years, and we've also helped other people get plugged into different companies in Hollywood. My wife, Kathleen, she ran the internship program for Biola University for about 7 years. And she was getting their students, their film students and TV students and media students, jobs on all kind of studio sets and movie sets and network television lots and all kind of places. So we've learned a little bit over the years about how to deal with interns. Now, the climate for internships, particularly in Hollywood, has changed a little bit in recent years. A few years ago, there was an intern working for a major studio for free. And which is the normal thing. You know, you're coming to get experience, you're entry level, you're not bringing much to the table. And so it's very often to get an internship where you're working for free for a company, and you could do a second job, you know, a part-time job on the side, or maybe you saved up in the last year or so to allow you to come out here for a number of months and be an intern. But and that's been common for as long as I can remember. But a few years ago, an intern worked for a major studio, did the free thing, agreed to it, did it all summer. But at the end of the internship, he sued the studio, saying the studio should have paid him. And of course, it created a big hubbub in Hollywood. And that studio, as a result, said, okay, no more free internships. We're just not going to do it anymore. If that's the way people are going to be, it's not worth us having to go to court all the time and be liable for these things. And so it's really put a damper on a lot of free internships. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to come to Hollywood to intern. There are advertising agencies. There are media companies. There are churches with media ministries. There are design, firms all over the country where you could go intern tomorrow. And here's the thing. If you have have a little nerve, go in and ask them, tell them, look, I really want to advance my career as a designer or a video person or a producer or a writer. And I would just love to shadow some of your people and be an intern. I'll get sandwiches. I'll do whatever it takes just to be there. That's the attitude you need to take. And you'd be amazed at the number of places who do amazing work where you could get an internship. So let's talk a little bit in this episode. Let's talk a little bit about, why you're interning, what's the point, what you're going to get out of it, and how can you use it to advance your career. First of all, number one, you're there to get near smart people. I think that's really important. You're there to be around people that you wouldn't normally get around in other walks of life. We've had interns here in our company, Cooke Media Group, that they shadowed me, they shadowed Dan Wathan, our producer, they've shadowed other people over the years, and they just watched, learned, engaged, and obviously you're getting sandwiches, you're running errands, you're doing real menial tasks as well, but at the same time, you're doing it in a writer's room in Hollywood, or you're doing it on set, watching a film crew work. I remember when I first came to Hollywood, right out of college, I started working. Fortunately, it was kind of an internship, but I was being paid super minimum wage, which is pretty low back then. And I was getting sandwiches. I was running errands. I was driving the delivery truck. It was with a film company. It was a small film company that produced feature films. And it was an incredible education. I got to drive the films at the end of every day's shoot to the lab, started conversations with the lab guys, and learned about what it takes to develop film back in those days. Started shadowing the film editor, and I sat in and I would start sorting takes and getting things, helping him get ready. It's just amazing what you can learn. So understand that you're there not to direct. You're not there, even though you have brilliant ideas, I get it. You're not there to produce. You're there to be around smart people. You're there to really wallow in expertise. It's so important. And keep in mind, I read a statistic recently that something like 22,000 film school graduates descend on Hollywood every year looking for a job. So the competition is remarkable. Understand, you're not the only one out there. So it is tough. It's a tough battle, and you have to be willing to do a lot in order to make that work for you. So just understand why you're here. And I would say, don't just understand that you're here to be around smart people. You're here to engage with them. That's how you're going to learn. Like I said, if I would drive film to the film lab, as I was dropping it off, I would start conversations with the guys in the film lab. And I learned an enormous amount about what it took to develop film and how we should prep film and get it ready for the lab and all of those things. And I would always engage, even when I was pushing dollies on a film set. And I was just carrying on conversations with gaffers and grips and assistant camera operators. And you just learn. So don't be a pest. Don't be over the top, but understand that if you engage with people, they respond, and you can learn some remarkable things. The second thing is understand that, as I said, your job is to assist with anything. Now, I made a list. It could be sandwiches and coffee. It could be wash the producer's car. It could be deliver scripts to some star's home at midnight. Whatever it is, be willing to do it. Now, here's the thing. You're not there to be abused. You're not there ever to be abused. And always, draw a line in the sand. And I'd encourage you to draw that line ahead of time. Where's the line that I'm not going to cross? You never want to be alone in somebody's home with them, particularly if you're a woman late at night, or, you never want to put yourself in compromising situations. I think it's important to realize that. I had one producer that would take all of his meetings in a bar late at night. And I just thought, okay, there's certain, I'll go meet with him. I'm not sure if I was a girl, I'd want to go meet with him. But that's a decision for you to make. Just understand a line, where the lines are that you won't cross. I've been yelled at over the years. I've been screamed at a few times when I was in my 20s. And you just have to decide how far you're going to go. However, when it comes to real honest, hard work, do it. Do it. Go get the sandwiches. Wash the producer's car if you need to, just to be able to be there in that environment where anything can happen. And you have no idea the number of stories in Hollywood of people that got picked to be a writer just because they happened to be in the writer's room at that particular time. People that got to be picked to be on a film crew or a video crew simply because they were there. And the thing is, you're getting sandwiches. Do a good job. Do a good job. John Bach, my friend, Grace Hill Media, sometimes he'll teach an internship class at a university. And the first thing he does when he walks in the class is he'll ask for somebody to run to the campus coffee shop and get him a coffee. And so, they're mostly reluctant, but someone will finally volunteer, and they do. And when they bring him back the coffee, they set it down for him, and he says, hold it a second. Where's my receipt? You didn't bring me cream. You didn't bring me sugar. You didn't bring me a stir stick. You didn't bring me the options. If you're going to be a successful intern, that's what you have to do. And it's a great illustrated lesson for young interns. You've got to do it really, really well. Go overboard. Understand that your job is to assist with virtually anything within, moral, ethical boundaries. Be there. Be energetic. Become their friend. That's so important. The third thing is, and this would be an extension, is your goal is to become indispensable. If you want to make your internship work for you and advance into a job, you've got to make those people look around and think, holy smoke, if Phil wasn't here, what would we do? We got to have Phil here. Now, the fact is, you're not writing the movie. You're not directing the film or the TV commercial or whatever you happen to be doing, or maybe, originating the social media campaign. But the truth is, whatever it is you're doing, even getting sandwiches and making lunch work for everybody or scheduling their day, whatever it is, become indispensable. It'll be the most important thing you could possibly do. As you get to the end of your internship, if there's a limit, sometimes it's open-ended, but as you go through your internship, you want to get everybody on that team to the point where they think, we couldn't survive without this guy. We have to have her available all the time. We need to keep her on the team. And if that means we pay her an upper salary, let's do it. Become indispensable. And like I said earlier, number 4 would be you aren't there to be abused. And again, I'll go back and just because it's such an important thing, make that decision ahead of time about where the line is that you're willing to draw in the sand. Because, there's some unethical producers out here. There are some jerks. We just went through this, Me Too time, this period in Hollywood, especially, where some of what these guys were doing was just exposed to the public, and it was just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And what bothers me is, and my little cultural aside here, but when the Me Too thing erupted, I felt horrible for these women that had been abused like this. But the people I wanted to hear from were the women who said no. Who are the women that had the nerve and the courage and the confidence and the belief in themselves and their talent to say, no, I'm not willing to do that to get a part in this movie. I'm not willing to do that to get on your team to make that television series. Those are the women I admire. whenever you're in a situation that's compromising or you really sense that this is not wrong. I got close to a couple of those situations in my early 20s when I first came to Hollywood after college. And fortunately, by the grace of God, had the fortitude to say, no, I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to do that. I'm willing to give up that opportunity because I just don't believe it's right. So when it comes to that, never, ever allow yourself to be taken advantage of or abused. And that comes from having, the courage, the confidence, knowing who you are, understand your identity. That's so very, very important. And create those lines. Because one thing I tell actors a lot, particularly, actresses in films, if you show up on the set one day and the director says, I got an idea. What if we did this part without your top on? What if we decide to do it nude or semi-nude or something like that? Well, he sprung that on you at the last minute, and there's 30 or 40 crew members standing by waiting to shoot this. The clock is ticking. The cash register is ringing. That's not the time to make a clear decision, ethical decision. So that's when you need to decide those things ahead of time. If you go into that situation knowing where your boundaries are, it will make a much greater difference, and it'll help you have the confidence to do the right thing. Number 5, don't make serious decisions. When you're in an intern role and you're working with a team, don't make serious decisions without approval or clarification. Going for coffee or sandwiches is one thing, and believe me, if it's a tough day and the crew's really stressed, the right sandwich can make a big difference. But there are bigger things too, and I'll give you a great example that came from our company many, many years ago. We hired an intern who was terrific. I really liked her. She was doing a great job. But one day, and this is in the days before Google, when we had our own server, our own enterprise server, and we did our own email on that server. We had all our files on that server. The cloud didn't exist in those days, and we had everything in a server, a big backup system, and the whole thing. And we had all our clients for years and years and years, all cataloged and filed on the server. Well, she got this idea somehow one day that, it would be better if we could put all of the client budgets in a folder, and then all the client scripts in a folder, then all the shooting schedules in a folder. And then she started breaking it down to other ways. And so without asking anybody, without asking for approval or if that was a good idea, she just did it. And I'll never forget, I walked into the office that day and she was beaming. She had rearranged our entire server. And now none of the client information was together per client. It was all scattered. We had all the budgets over here. We had all the scripts over here. It was an absolute nightmare. And I really didn't know what to say at first. And when I thought it was a joke, and when she assured me it wasn't a joke and she was super proud of her work, she showed me what she'd done. I called our computer guy, and we looked at it and realized this will take 6 to 8 months to fix. This is a massive, just a massive screw up, because she backed it up. She wanted to be sure it was really, really good. So once she did it, and this is the old days when you didn't have 15 backups of something like Time Machine or anything, she had backed up her new idea. She thought it was so good. So the bottom line is I fired her that day. And it took us between 6 and 7 months. I forget exactly how long to rearrange. And I imagine after 20 some years, there's still some files that aren't in the place they ought to be. But it cost us, when I think of the man hours it took to have multiple people, because they had to weigh in on different things, spend time reorganizing that server. It's just absolutely amazing. But it taught me a valuable lesson, which is A, never let your interns touch the server. But B, if you're an intern, always ask for approval or clarification before you come up with a brilliant idea and execute it. So very important. Always ask for approval. Number 6, I would encourage you, find an internship in the city that you want to live in. For instance, if you want to come to Hollywood and you want to live in Hollywood, that's where you should intern. If you feel like maybe Hollywood's not for me and I want to pursue a media career in Dallas, I would intern there. If I want to have a media career in New York or Atlanta or Chicago, I would intern there. Reason being is, when you intern for 6 months or a year, you really get to know the city well. You're running errands for people. You're using, your Maps app all the time. You're learning where everything is. You're developing relationships with people. You're learning to meet people. You learn how the industry works in that city. And for suddenly at the end of a 6-month or a year internship to walk away and move to a completely new city and start over, it's just crazy. So always think about where I want to have my career and start interning in that city. That's really vitally important. And it may sound, simple, but you have no idea the number of people that will come up to me after a conference or meet with me and tell me, okay, so I did my 6-month internship in Dallas and now I want to come to Hollywood. Well, you just wasted 6 months pretty much as far as relationships and networking and getting to know the city and getting to know the industry there. You've wasted it. So many interns will call me and they say, I just finished college or I'm in my summer break and I want to come and intern in Hollywood. Well, do you have a car? No. Well, do you have a place to live? No. Do you have an income? No. They just haven't thought about that at all. In your excitement to be an intern, always think about how I'm going to make a living out there. How I'm going to make a living. In a lot of cities, particularly LA, there are actually apartment complexes that are designed around short-term living. And so they're designed for interns or freelancers or people that come from other cities for a brief period. And so knowing that is important. Knowing where the acting classes are is important. Knowing, all these aspects of the city you want to live in is very, very important. You can't really intern without a car, because you're going to have to run errands, you have to go get sandwiches and coffee and things like that, or just deliver different hard drives and all kind of stuff. So you just need to understand you got to have a car. So think about logistics. That's the word I'm looking for. Logistics is really the key. If you want to be a successful intern and have a good, solid internship, understand logistics is really, really critical. And then I would say that number 8, and this is not for everybody, but if you're a Christian, understand your internship is not just a job, it's a mission field. It's a mission field. You're coming out there, and I always tell people in this situation, if you are passionate about your relationship with God and you want to come to New York or Hollywood or Atlanta or Dallas, don't lead with your faith, lead with your talent. Don't come to Hollywood and tell the studios that, hey, God's called me to Hollywood to change the industry. You'll get laughed off the lot. I've talked about that in a number of other podcast episodes. Always lead with your talent. Make sure that you show them you're a brilliant camera operator or a great writer or a terrific actor, or you're really motivated as an assistant, whatever you're doing. Make sure they see that first. Because when you build a level of trust and you build a relationship, then I'll tell you, they'll open the door to listening to whatever you have to say. So think of it as a mission field and develop relationships to share your faith. I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, I'll never forget, I was on a set one time and we're getting ready to shoot a really difficult scene. And an intern said, I was kind of embarrassed about it and about saying anything about this, but an intern on the shoot stepped up and said, guys, what if we just said a little prayer before we do this? This is dangerous. We're doing a stunt. What if we said a little prayer? And let me tell you, the most burly, pagan, atheist guys on the crew stepped up and said, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's do that. And they reached out and started holding everybody's hand. And we had an amazing prayer. And that's a great example of how you don't have to be over the top or obtrusive or insensitive or make people uncomfortable. There are moments when your faith can make a huge difference out there. So think of it in terms of a mission field. So I would say this, maybe in closing, that internships have changed a lot over the years. And if you can get a paid gig, even a low, minimum wage gig, get it. Go for that first. But I'll tell you, the experience you can learn working, Starbucks at night or some other place on weekends to raise the money to be able to work free on a set or in a studio or at an advertising agency or a design firm or a social media firm, being an intern in those places where you're regularly engaging with experts, people with experience, you can't learn that in a textbook. You can't learn it from online sources. You can't learn it from being in a class. These are things that are powerful and can really have an impact on your career. Plus, they'll introduce you to other people who will introduce you to other people, and that chain just goes on and on and on and can start to build your career. So, internships. I would encourage you, seriously consider them, because I really believe they're critically important for your career. I'm so grateful you tuned in for this episode of my podcast. And I just want to say, maximize your influence, how to make digital media work for your church, your ministry, and you. I would encourage you to go get this. You can go to influencematters.com and make a donation to the Influence Lab, our nonprofit that works to help people around the world use social media, use video, use communication to help share their message. That would be a great thing. Or you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the places the books are sold. You can order and get a copy of my book. It's so important, particularly if you're a leader and you need to understand how this digital transition is in helping or really impacting the way you speak to the public, the way you lead a team, the way you publish books, the way you do video and social media and all these things. It's really a great reference book to have on your desk for when questions come up that you don't have the answers for, and it can really help advance your cause and get your message out there in a much more significant way. Also, share this thing. If you know young people in college or people who are considering internships in the media, please share this episode. And there are other episodes for different things as well. Really help me get this information out there because so many people need to hear this practical stuff. I'm not a polished speaker. I don't have extensive notes. I just like to come on and share from my heart about things I've learned over the years trying to take your career to the next level, particularly when it comes to communication and media. So hopefully that'll connect with a lot of people. And I think I would just be really grateful if you'd rate these things. You would give us a rating because it helps us go up in the search. Please comment. We love to get back and talk about things that have concerned you. And if you have topics you'd like me to explore in the future, let me know. Go in the comment section and let me know. We'd love to do that. And until then, I will see you on the next episode.